What's going on, residents of Raccoon City? Nick Smith back here again. What do y'all think of the new look? I figured, you know what, let's change things up a bit. Since I've been doing my Resident Evil series until either the release of the remake of Resident Evil 4 or until I run out of Resident Evil stuff to talk about, I figured let's jump back into the Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil series and talk about the third movie in his series, Resident Evil Extinction. Let's throw on the gas masks and, well, let's dive into this thing. This is Resident Evil Extinction. Alright, so as I stated, this is the third film in the series, and I would most definitely say this is when Paul W.S. Anderson started making every single film like its own separate thing, because things that happened in the previous movie or in the future films, they are never brought up ever again. It's just like, oh, no. Each film is its own separate story, so you can't pull any plot points out of it. You can't say, oh, this is a plot hole, this is a plot hole. That's what it really feels like, is he was just doing whatever he wanted and didn't care if it didn't make sense at all. This was also when he just started throwing in characters from random Resident Evil games just to prove, oh, no, this is definitely a Resident Evil film. Whereas in this film, he brings us the characters of Claire Redfield, a replacement for Jill Valentine, and the main villain of the series, Albert Wesker. He barely acts like his character. The only thing that they got with this character right is he has the sunglasses and the combed back hair. He doesn't fight. He doesn't have any of his epic one-liners. He's not smug. Well, he's a little smug, but they just have him completely downgraded to what I actually prefer how he is in the fourth film. But you could obviously tell that this was just him taking whatever he wanted from the series and just throwing it in there and like mixing it all up in a blender. This is a Resident Evil movie. Look, it doesn't make any sense, but it's a Resident Evil movie. I promise. And this is a common trend that he does throughout the rest of the series. Okay, so now before I get into what this film is really about, I want to address a couple things. So actually the reason why this film kind of turned out the way it did is because they had to cut a lot of stuff they had planned that had to do with the ending of the last movie. Now for anyone who has not seen the movie, spoilers, or if anyone who has watched the ending of my last video, you'll know what happened at the end of the movie. Alice is basically able to escape and she's picked up by Jill, RJ, Carlos, and when they get into this car, the girl Angie is there, and, you know, they do the whole Alice Project Initiate it, and then they drive off, which would set things up for this movie. Now, the girl who was playing Jill Valentine, she had another film she was working on, the movie Aragon, which I have not seen, but, you know, it was in contrast with this film, and she was trying to see how could she do both, or she had to make a choice, and she chose to do Aragon. Which, in all honesty, I don't blame her. But because she left, and she was supposed to have a pretty big part in this film, apparently, they had to cut all that, and because of that, they just basically said, yeah, Angie dies. There's no explanation about her in the film at all. It's just, oh, yeah, we replaced her with this blonde girl named Kmart because they found her in a Kmart somewhere. So, glad we cleared that up. That is the reason why this film kind of turned out the way it did. Now, the whole thing with this film is Alice has decided to split from the group because she figured out, okay, Umbrella's tracking me, and I don't want my friends to get hurt, so she goes off on her own because, like I said, Umbrella is tracking her. Well, where they can't find her, they are also making clones of Alice because they figure, okay, if we get the right clone, we can have a duplicate match, and we can basically use her blood to find the cure for the T-virus so we can go back to the surface because they are tired of living underground. But that is the whole entire thing of this film, is the Umbrella Corporation is looking for Alice. She left, so they're cloning her so they can find a way to cure the T-virus, I guess. And you have Albert Wesker, who is apparently the chairman of the Umbrella Corporation. That is not what he is. He's basically just trying to sell whatever bioweapon he can find to the highest bidder. That's pretty much what Wesker does, and he does it while wearing sunglasses and having his hair slicked back. Looks really freaking awesome. And now, here's a guy on a skateboard telling you reasons why to subscribe. Subscribe! Alright, welcome back. I hope you all enjoyed that little ad I had. And that rhymed. So continuing with the film, we also see Paul W.S. Anderson's inconsistencies, mainly with that of people turning into zombies and how long it takes them to turn. Now, I've had arguments with my friends about this because it just bothers me so dang much. Because you have, from people in the second movie, a poor girl's dad turns into a zombie like within seconds, to, you know, Carlos being bit and him being infected for like 3 or 4 hours and getting the antivirus and he's fine, to RJ in this film, he gets bit early on in the film, and he doesn't tell anybody, because stupid, but it takes him maybe almost a day and a half to become a zombie, and I'm like, why? What the heck? I mean, I get it's a character arc, but they could have had it where he turns like in hours, like maybe a whole day. I would, okay, fine, a day. But almost like a day and a half to 2 to 3 days? No, does not compute. And now people have said, well, maybe his ecosystem was really strong. I highly doubt it. It just really bothered me that it was such a big inconsistency. And they never mention why certain people turn in seconds to a couple hours to a couple days. It's just never brought up again. And another thing with Carlos, because he gets bit in this film once again, and you know, you have Alice going up to him, it's like, don't worry, it's going to be okay. They have the antivirus in there, and he's just like, it's too late and you know it. I'm like, dude, what the heck? Are you honestly that tired of being in these films? Of course, though, reading the script, I wouldn't blame him. But I was just like, okay, you were infected for a longer period of time in the second film, and you got the antivirus and you were fine. Why all of a sudden are you just ready to throw in the towel now? Of course, once again, the script, I don't blame him. But jumping from the inconsistencies, I will give Paul W.S. Anderson this. They brought an enemy from the games into the movie, in that of the zombie crows. And I really liked how they did this scene because, like, you know, you have the guys are driving to LA and they just stop and you just, like, the whole entire place is covered with crows. And it really brings you back to Alfred Hitchcock's movie The Birds, and they're like, okay, don't move, don't make any sudden noises, because you have no idea what's going to set these things off. And it is very suspenseful. I will give him that. That's the only thing I'm going to give him in this film. You have that, you have the crows, and you have a little bit from Day of the Dead with them trying to make the zombies smarter. Maybe they could actually either turn the zombies into a much stronger weapon or turn them back into humans slowly. So, you know, Day of the Dead reference. To the creation of what I call Tyrant Isaacs, because Dr. Isaacs gets bit by one of the super zombies, and after going like, I need the antivirus, please give me the antivirus, turns out he had injected himself with multiple things of the antivirus. I'm like, dude, you probably just need one. Even one of the people in the Umbrella Corporation's like, why did you give yourself so many of that? You don't know what all that's going to do to you. And he's like, I needed it. And him doing so turns him into a combination of Nemesis and Tyrant, mainly because Nemesis has the tentacles and Tyrant has the big claw. But it leads up to a big final battle between him and Alice, and it takes us to the only part of the movie everyone remembers from this series, that of the laser room. This is a pretty good fight because, you know, Isaacs can heal from anything, Alice's powers aren't working, and so you're like, okay, what is she gonna do to beat this person? And she's like, we're both gonna die down here. And I had to throw that line in. And then we end up getting a plot point that leads us into the next movie of Resident Evil Afterlife, with Alice going to Wesker and the Umbrella Corporation through a hologram, being like, I'm coming for you and I'm gonna bring a few of my friends. Good way to end the film, I will say that. Resident Evil Extinction, I will say, is probably the most forgettable out of this series. It was the oddball. Yes, he did try to do something different, but it was so inconsistent with the story that they had from the last film that it just threw it out of the water. The acting's fine. We have Johnny Cage in this film. The portrayal of Claire and Wesker, they're just cutaway characters. They aren't any different. They don't stand out. They blend in with everybody else, and it's an insult to the characters of Claire and Wesker. Wesker is the main villain of the series. He's done much better in the fourth film, I'll give him that. The fourth film was probably my favorite in the whole entire series, but they really did Claire injusticely, and I really wish that they had just either just hired somebody else to be Jill, or just give Claire the same story plot she was going to have for Jill in this film. But guys, put in the comments below, what do you think of Resident Evil Extinction? I really want to know, guys. Don't forget to go around the corner safely with your berets and your pistols to see the subscribe button for the 1, 2, 3. Don't forget to shoot that like button and put in the comments below, what is your favorite Resident Evil movie and favorite Resident Evil game? I want to know. Guys, have a happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you next time. And don't forget to subscribe.